Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:06. It's O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in here on this Tuesday morning. It's a busy one as usual. Coming up at 7:35, Jim Hanson will give us his insight on what may have been said between Trump and Macron yesterday at the White House and how that might affect Ukraine peace, and if we're closer there than before. And then at 8:35, Congressman Jim Jordan from Judiciary there in the House of Representatives. He's one of our faves, despite his affiliation with Ohio. I've turned the corner back to Michigan now again. I like Vice President Vance, as you know, man crush, go Buckeyes. But at the same time, Julie, I can't. I tried the scarlet and gray for a couple of hours here. I'm back to my maize and blue.
I appreciate it.
Jim Jordan, though, will discuss FBI subpoenas right now for ducks having to do with the misconduct at the FBI under the Biden administration. Joining us now is the one and only Tim Graham from the one and only Media Research Center. A lot to discuss. I understand you guys have a fleet of trucks driving around D.C. today. What's that all about?
It is time to defund PBS and NPR. Let them be funded by George Soros or Rachel Maddow. We're tired of it. We can't have conservatives paying money to get their butts kicked. We're tired of it.
I 100% agree. You have no idea what it's like as a radio host to know that money is taken out of my pocket to fund my competitor. Right down the dial from me at NPR. Trust me, I've seen their budget. I've seen their staff. They don't need my tax dollars. But, you know, Tim, we've heard this before, and every time Republicans get close to defunding public broadcasting, somebody says, you're killing Big Bird, and then they get cold feet. Is it different this time?
Well, yes, because, of course, Sesame Street sold out to HBO in 2015. Now, the funny part about that is HBO just sort of dumped them and said, go find another corporate patron. So, yes, it ain't about Big Bird. It's about the awful PBS NewsHour. It's about the awful Frontline. It is about NPR running horrible stories against Republicans. That is what this is about. I do sense, Larry, that this really could be a different time. We're at a time where the Republicans are, they're already infuriating the liberals with everything else. Put this on top as a cherry. Let's see them actually say, go live on your own, go bother somebody else, and let us keep our money for something else.
It's just astonishing, honestly, Tim, that with the sort of creation of cable news and cable in general and the fact that, I can sit down and scroll between 700 channels, the idea that this still exists is just insane to me. But I'm wondering if you all have done any sort of public sort of the opinion polling on this. Where's the public on this? And have the Republicans and other people that want to defund PBS and NPR, have they done a good job of selling this to the American public? Because, of course, it will be sort of cast as, oh, this is horrible that they want to get rid of, Sesame Street and Big Bird and all that. But has there been a good enough job selling this to the American public?
Well, I think the problem here is always, we call it public broadcasting. So people, and they do primarily think first, as you suggest, of programs for kiddies,
right. Right.
Which are teaching them there are not two genders, but the children's programs are not the primary thing here that's at issue. And so, yes, the public television lobby, they're here in town this week having a big conference about how they're going to save their tax dollars. They spend their tax dollars to get more tax dollars.
Yes, exactly.
I mean,
right.
there's a lot of that in government.
And another thing about this is that, you're right. Everyone immediately goes to the children's programming, and Lord knows there's plenty of children's programming options out there on various video streaming platforms. But also some of the most popular programming that you'll see on PBS television programming, at least, is British. It's from the BBC. They've acquired the rights to the Great British Bake Off that they call Baking Show. But you can also get that on Netflix. They do Poldark, or they do Sherlock, or they do Downton Abbey. Well, you can get all of that on streaming platforms and BBC channels right now anyway. There's no reason why they should have the exclusive rights in North America. It really has outlived its existence. But let's talk about NPR for a minute, because they have branched out into podcasting. They've branched out into all sorts of various avenues of audio content that goes well beyond what their original sort of mandate was when they were created. Is there, I know a lot of these politicians and a lot of these staffers, they listen to NPR. They like NPR.
Well, I mean, I listen to NPR in my car sometimes.
What?
Then I have to come back. What? Then I have to come.
Wait, hold on. What
during the
time of day?
Larry. During the commercials.
Wait, hold on. You think that makes it better? We need you to listen to the commercials, Tim. That's a big part of what we do here. How dare... Could you get Bozell on the phone?
Seriously.
Hey, I'm sorry.
Canceled.
Hey, Larry, I'm not staying on this station for 1-800-CARS-FOR-KIDS.
Let me just, the record reflect that we love our friends at 1-800-CARS-FOR-KIDS. And we continue to spell it with a K.
You're doing great, Tim.
Thank you.
But it is a horrible anti-Trump network right now. If you want to see how much PBS and NPR are leftist, they know Elon Musk is coming, and their coverage of Musk, it's worse than their coverage of Trump.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's where we are.
So what are these? We want to find the trucks. We want to celebrate them. We want to champion them. Where are they going to be located today?
Well, primarily, they're going to circulate around Capitol Hill.
K and 15th, I'm thinking. Isn't that where NPR? No, North Capitol and...
Yeah, they're on NOMA, North Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Yes. They have a nice big.
It's a beautiful studio.
Building.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Huge.
All right. Well, we'll look for that. Let's turn to this now. Joy Reid yesterday. Here's a little bit of what it sounded like.
My show had value, and that that what I was doing had value.
Yeah, her show had value. Well, apparently the corporate suits at 30 Rock didn't think it had value. She's gone, and a whole lot of other people are gone at NBC. Is this real? Does this shakeup mean that they're going to start changing their programming as well?
I wouldn't bet a nickel that it's going to change much. What we should hope for is I would like an MSNBC that has less of, her guests coming on and screaming about the terrible things that white people do. A little less racism would be good, but I feels like they're shifting around the deck chairs, right? Like we're going to just put this host there and put that host there, and yeah, it is kind of amusing that they, that the last 20 minutes of her show was all the other hosts whining and moaning, about how terrible this was, and it's like, look, it's people change jobs, people get fired, it happens. Stop it.
Tim, what's the situation with? You've seen rumors of MSNBC going to be sold off. I mean, obviously it's in crisis, but is there? What's the status of that?
Well, yeah, they've tried to sort of spin it off. I think from the very beginning, like Tom Brokaw, they didn't want MSNBC associated with them. But you'll remember, MSNBC was it wasn't what it is now, like what it became under Keith Olbermann. But yeah, they're going to try to spin it off. There's always that danger that somehow it'll become dangerously more moderate. But you're hearing the same tone from the liberals about how when Rupert Murdoch dies, you're going to get some sort of Rhino Fox. So I mean, we shall see. But as you look at the way it looks today, I don't see any dramatic change in the current environment.
I mean, it's Rhino adjacent. I mean, it's sort of, let's face it, Tim, it's Rhino curious.
Well,
it may not
we
be.
know James Murdoch's a big lib, so who knows?
All right, Tim Graham, Media Research Center. Let's congratulate him on his final appearance here on O'Connor.
Never.
7:15 WMAL traffic and weather. Every 10 minutes first on the fives with Jamie Whitten in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center.
Donate your car today. All right.
That's my girl.
Here we go.
WMAL, making sense of the news.
All right, so as you know, President Trump sort of preemptively endorsed Byron Donalds for governor of Florida, and Byron Donalds, of course, hasn't even announced that he's running. It's funny, I don't know if you were listening on Friday. We had Erica Donalds that day, his wife, to talk about education, and of course the whole thing was about that. So now, of course, all eyes are on Florida, and they're wondering, well, what's Governor DeSantis going to do? Because, DeSantis' wife is it Casey DeSantis? There's been rumors that she might want to run. I don't like that. It's like, the whole,
I don't either.
The queen ascends to the throne after the, I didn't like it when the Clintons did it. I don't, it's not my favorite thing. But it also makes it kind of awkward for the husband.
Sure.
To have to deal with, okay, Trump endorsed Donald. What about your wife? And it's like, okay. So he tried to do as much as he could to not talk about it yesterday. What he did do was invite Elon Musk to come down and do his DOGE thing in Tallahassee.
So today, I'm pleased to announce that we are launching a comprehensive initiative to continue to streamline our government and to continue to eliminate unnecessary bureaucracy and to continue to ensure tax dollars are used in the most efficient way possible. We are creating a state DOGE task force that will implement a multi-pronged approach to eliminating bureaucratic bloat and modernizing our state government to best serve the people of Florida in the years ahead. This will be just similar to the federal DOGE. It's going to be a limited amount of time. It'll be a one-year term. It will sunset following the completion of the mission.
There you go. And when that mission is completed, he's hoping to bring the budget down in a major way. And what do you do with the dividend? Well, get this. We already know that Florida has no income tax, right? It's one of the reasons why so many people have moved down there. But then they always say, yeah, but our property taxes are really high, and that's how they get you. Well, here's Governor DeSantis.
Subject their citizens to higher taxes, such as higher property taxes, to pay for these spending habits. And, these property taxes, it's like you buy a home, you buy land, maybe you buy the home outright, but maybe you pay off a mortgage over 30 years. And then, okay, you've paid off the mortgage, you bought the land, you've been taxed many times. It's like, is it your property or not? Just for being on your property, you got to write a check to the government every year. So you're basically paying rent to the government to live on your own property. And our homestead exemption is not strong enough to help these folks because the property gets assessed so high. And that's the thing. If you buy a home for $300,000 and there's certain tax, well, then what? 10 years later, they say it's worth $700,000. And so, and they say, there's homestead stuff that helps protect you to a certain extent, but you're paying more. And a lot of people can't afford that.
And he went on to basically say that paying the government to continue to own your home is absurd, and he is now trying to put Florida on the path to eliminate property tax as well. Wow, indeed. That's a game changer if he's able to do that.
I think it's time that we start broadcasting from Florida.
Right, exactly. And that's why we have an announcement to make. All right, so there you go. So policy-wise, that's some pretty huge stuff from Ron DeSantis right down in Florida.
Yeah, and it's very smart that he is not distancing himself from Trump. He's not sort of doing this thing where he's saying these are great ideas. I'm going to implement them in Florida. This is what, frankly, people want. This is going to attract more people to his state. And there are other ways of the state getting revenue. He recognizes that. It's a very smart fiscal policy.
So a good deep dive into him starting Florida DOGE, getting rid of property tax. Can we get to the dirt now?
Sure.
Can we get to the dirt? All right. So what's he going to do now with his wife who wants to be governor and Trump endorsing Byron Donalds? He was asked about it.
My view is Donald Trump just got into office. I want these congressmen focused on enacting his agenda. They haven't done very much yet. They're not putting his executive orders into place. We'll see what they do on the spending. But we have such a narrow majority that to be trying to campaign other places and missing these votes, I think is not something that's advisable at all. And so the reality is we've achieved victories in Florida. We need to start achieving those victories up there. So I think people look at it and say, you got a guy like Byron. He just hasn't been a part of any of the victories that we've had here over the left over these last years. He's just not been a part of it. He's been in other states campaigning, doing that, and that's fine. But okay, well then deliver results up there. That's what I want to see. I want to see them delivering results for the people of Florida.
A little red on red violence there. What do you think? That was obvious.
Smart.
He's not endorsing Byron, and he said, "Yeah, you know what? We've been doing a lot of work down here. Why don't you get some work done up in D.C. before you want to come down here?"
And there is frustration on the federal level that the Congress. We just talked to Tim Graham about get on with it, defund PBS and NPR. There's a lot of examples of that where we're like, why are you dragging your feet? Yeah. Okay, get stuff done. It's smart.
So there's going to be a lot of vying for that governor's seat. There's some people who have been taken out of the running de facto. Marco Rubio is not going to run for governor of Florida. Michael Waltz, who's now the national security advisor, will not be running for governor of Florida. I don't think Matt Gaetz, who is somebody who was being discussed as a potential candidate, is going to run. Byron Donalds is there, and now, well, he's certainly obviously keeping his options open for Casey DeSantis. So we'll see what happens. It's 7:23.
Making sense of your world.
I agree with everything you're saying.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
My heart just breaks for what's going on.
Making sense of the news. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
7:36. It's O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in here. Busy Tuesday morning. Coming up at 8:35, Representative Jim Jordan. How's he going to work with new FBI Director and Deputy Director Kash Patel and Dan Bongino? And will they get to the bottom of some of the politicization of that bureau? We'll talk to the congressman from Ohio about that. I'm Larry O'Connor, and you're it's Julie, right?
Yes.
I forget people's names today. What is wrong with me?
It happens.
Especially if it starts with a J. Joining us now is Jim. Oh, it's Jim. See, it's a J again. Jim Hanson. Jim Hanson, political analyst extraordinaire, especially when it comes to our military, he being a former dude with special ops and all that stuff. Jim, good morning. How are you? That's the official title, right? Dude with special ops?
Special Forces weapons guy.
There you go. Special Forces weapons guy. In other words, you could kill me. In fact, you're like Dan Crenshaw, man. You could kill somebody, just break their neck if they disagree with you on Ukraine. Do you see that? What was that all about?
I'm like Dan Crenshaw, but I can see over the counter.
Oh, now.
Oh, dear.
You are a little taller,
Hey, be careful.
Let me just be clear to Mr. Crenshaw, who I believe does have a short temper. That was Jim Hanson, Hanson, not your lovable host here. Obviously, discussions over Ukraine are getting quite emotional, including Congressman Crenshaw's outburst there on the hot mic about Tucker Carlson. But what do you think the discussion was like between Trump and Macron yesterday at the White House?
I think Macron and most of the rest of the Euros have come to the reality that this war is going to end. They are not going to get their wish of using less resources to topple Putin. And in the end, there is going to be a ceding of territory by Ukraine, the Donbass provinces and Crimea. And in return, Ukraine is going to get some sort of a security guarantee and probably some European peacekeeping troops. This deal could have been had 3 years ago. At least two. The battle lines haven't changed significantly in that time. So it's a horror that many people had to die for all the warmongers and forever war people to come to this conclusion.
What do you make of Zelensky's reactions? He has talked about, speaking of Crenshaw and a hot temper, Zelensky seems to be exhibiting some, let's just say, a hot temper as well with this. Now, I understand that. I understand it's different. But he seems to have had an outburst with a Trump administration official. What do you make of Zelensky's? He's saying I'm going to withdraw, or I'm going to stand down. What do you make of his reaction to some of this?
He's I give Zelensky credit for one thing. He saved Ukraine. He rallied that country. He took them from a very dangerous situation, got world support, and has maintained that far longer than it really should have. But he is a loose cannon. He is not a strategist. He is not a world leader. He is a guy playing a world leader in a costume he built for himself. And now all that's falling apart for him, and I think he's afraid of the audits that are going to come and the rest of this, and I think he's a little bit unhinged. He's going to do what Trump tells him to do because he doesn't have a choice. We are the only ones who can provide the necessary resources. So it's going to happen. He doesn't have to like it, but it's going to go worse for him the more he mouths off to Trump and his people.
Yeah.
Putin invaded Ukraine. It's just an undeniable fact. And you can argue that he did it because of failed diplomatic efforts or absolutely, non-existent diplomatic efforts from the Biden administration, and because of failures at the Biden administration to engage and work with the two parties involved. You can say that it happened for a lot of reasons, but Putin invaded Ukraine. Why are we seeing this reluctance from the Trump administration to acknowledge that fact? Doesn't hurt Trump, or is this just Trump like saying, listen, my goal here is to get peace, and I don't want to, offend Vladimir Putin in any way? Is that what we're seeing here, Jim? I mean, I don't know why it's offensive to just state the obvious fact that those were Russian tanks rolling across the Ukraine border.
Yeah, it's 100% Trump playing Putin. At this point, he needs engagement from both sides. He can kind of boss Zelensky around because Zelensky needs him. Putin doesn't need him. Russia could keep going. It's not doing them good, but they managed to find a way to get around the sanctions. Their economy is doing okay. They don't need this peace as much as the rest of the world, and specifically, Trump's team and Zelensky's team need it. So Trump is doing what he does with big tyrants, is he's stroking their ego. He's letting them feel like they are, not as bad as they honestly are when everyone knows they are. And he knows they are.
What's the deal with the money that's been, you're getting two different stories here from Congress. My understanding is the bulk of this money that was given to Ukraine for their defense was in what's called forgivable loans. And yes, obviously a forgivable loan, by definition, it can be forgiven, but that's up to us to forgive the loan. And oftentimes we forgive the loan in exchange for, like mineral rights that's being discussed right now. But Congress specifically voted on these things to be forgivable loans. Zelensky is saying, no, you gave me this money. How's that going to play out?
He's going to sign the deal, and we're going to have mineral rights. And I think that's far to his advantage to have U.S. companies engaged in mining and extracting those minerals in his country, because that's another deterrent to stop Putin from rolling tanks again.
That's my quick follow-up here.
You're going to roll over our guys.
If our industry is there, does that mean there's sort of an implied commitment of our troops to be there as well?
It's an implied commitment that doing anything to damage those industries or hurt Americans anywhere, as President Trump has promised. Seb Gorka said it very well. He said, if you hurt Americans anywhere around the world, we will kill you. And I think that's a great foreign policy to put on display. So, yes, it's highly to Zelensky's advantage to have U.S. companies there as a tripwire. It's highly to his advantage to have us help him exploit his minerals and grow his economy and other things. And it's to our advantage, too. And at some level, Putin's getting, the ability to claim he didn't lose this war. Yeah. It's close enough to a win for everybody, and it's time to just sign the papers.
Just to correct the record, Jim Hanson, I don't think Gorka said we will kill you. I think he said we will kill you.
That sounds more like Seb.
Jim Hanson, U.S. Army Special Forces weapons guy, and also president of the Security Studies Group. Always good to talk to you, sir. Thank you.
Pleasure.
It is 7:44.
Later this morning on the Chris Plante Show, funny to listen to the media complaining about the government laying people off while the media's laying people off left and right. 9 a.m. on WMAL.
Julie Gunlock, I meant to check with you. Have you looked in on the secret transgender fetish chat room we have here at the radio station for employees to utilize? What?
No. I haven't.
Oh, no, we don't have anything like that here. That would be completely wrong and inappropriate. But over at the NSA, apparently this is a thing. Christopher Rufo, investigative journalist from City Journal, has an exclusive here. He's got logs from the NSA's secret transgender sex chat room in which NSA, CIA, DIA employees discuss, well, that's where I have to stop.
Yes.
It's really gross stuff. Inappropriate stuff for the workplace, that's for sure.
We can say that they in great detail discuss some things, among them transgender surgeries, and the nitty-gritty that goes on with that. So,
painful detail.
Yes.
Involved in this.
Yes.
And apparently engaging in now they call it a secret chat room. This is on a government server, right? And this is sort of like a way for interoffice personnel to discuss matters.
Usually people have these systems.
In a secure, this I'm guessing is a secured system.
Well, one hopes. Well, I don't know.
Well, but you can print off, screenshots, and
sure.
Clearly somebody saw this and said, this is unbelievable, outrageous. This comes at the time when Elon Musk is under fire for asking federal employees to list 5 things that they did and accomplished last week.
They spent hours talking about this.
Right. You can look at how long they're spending in this chat room because there's a little timestamp next to their participation. And not only is this unproductive as a federal employee, but these are employees at NSA. How is this keeping America safer from our enemies?
They're talking also about their own personal sex lives. They're talking about their own personal fetishes. They're talking about certain things that they're into. It's not just transgender surgeries, although that is discussed. I mean, This is really inappropriate work talk. I mean, if we're just going to take it from the very basics. But then also among agencies that are supposed to be keeping us safe from terrorists, they're spending time doing this, and then these are the same people who can't come up with a list of 5 things they did during the week. This is absurd.
It is absurd, and it's really raw, raunchy stuff. And after 3 hours of it, I had enough. It's just really starting to freak me out. I had reached my limit. I was done. See, even that kind of thing I shouldn't say in a workplace environment. This is what, I know you're saying it's fine, but I guess my point is we have, quarterly, if not daily discussions here at our corporation about what is not appropriate at the workplace. How was this set up?
Yeah, let's not.
Who approved this?
I don't know what the dates are. I'm trying to
look. But apparently it was under the Biden administration's DEI initiative.
Yes, and the same administration who, made these people watch videos about appropriate work conduct. Yeah, apparently it wasn't working.
And so, at some point somebody said, hey, we'd like to initiate a chat room about these issues. And if the supervisor had said, no, that would be inappropriate, they were guilty of not being diverse enough or not inclusive enough or in some way discriminatory or transphobic or what have you. Tulsi Gabbard, the new director of national intelligence, said it's inappropriate and these people will be, did she say they'd be fired? It's going to be shut down and those involved will be held accountable, is the word she used. Speaking of held accountable, we don't have time to delve into this too further, but CNN had a report over at Langley, a 7th floor of CIA, says that people are discussing that if they end up getting fired at CIA or participate in the proposed buyouts, that they've got to watch this because it could result in a group of ex-CIA officers running to foreign intelligence services to let them know what they learned while working at the CIA. Basically, traitors acting treasonous if they get laid off at the CIA. That's a huge, and that's just casually mentioned in a CNN article.
That CNN reporter reports this as, hey, look at this. What that CNN reporter should be doing is perhaps informing the agency that it has these people who are willing to trade secrets.
Then they'd blow their source.
Well, of course.
That's way more important, their First Amendment and all. Yeah, I'll read it real fast. CIA's 7th floor, home to top leadership. Some officers are quietly discussing how mass firings and the buyouts already offered to staff risk creating a group of disgruntled former employees who might be motivated to take what they know to a foreign intelligence service.
Boy, you got a culture problem there.